And Pisecki. We've got a great program today. We are going to get an update on our Afghanistan. I gotta say it right. Afghanistan. Okay, I should have you do it, Meredith. Afghan refugee program from Bethany Christian Services. We'll start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a reflection by Bill Erickson, a little Rotary trivia, and our student guests from Mona Shore Schools. And we'll recite the four-way test at the end of the meeting. Let's start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the
republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, you may be seated. Okay, as Bill's making his way up here to pinch hit for our reflection on short notice, a little trivia that ties into our membership today. And as you may or may not know, our Rotary Club is one of the largest in the state. In fact, we are the second largest in the state with 218 members. Does anyone have a guess where the largest Rotary program in the world is and how many members? I heard of Traverse City, Traverse City is not the answer. Any guesses? Chicago, that'd be a good guess too, where Rotary started. But it's actually the downtown club in Oklahoma City. Their Rotary Club has 600 members. So a 600-member Rotary Club in Oklahoma City. And I did throw down the gauntlet to Traverse City to try to get a feel for their membership, because usually we're like 1 and 1A, but they wouldn't divulge their members. I think they felt like we were challenging them. So anyway, Bill?
Good afternoon. I have been recently assigned to the task of offering a reflection. Thankfully, I have been gifted with the ability to speak for hours on end on any topic, with or without information. So let's reflect together. This, you may not recognize this. When I look out amongst Rotary members, I see agents of change. And the good that Rotary does is change for the good, change with a purpose. The reflection goes as this: give us courage to change what must be altered, serenity to accept what cannot be helped, and insight to know one from the other. It was changed to the Serenity Prayer many years later, but that was written in 1932. So, agents of change, go and do likewise.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Enjoy lunch, and we'll be back in a minute with our visiting Rotarians and our student guests. Please make your way up. Gary Nealand is our second pinch hitter of the day, pinch hitting for Marty Seitzema. If you want to come on up with our Mona Shore students, and you guys will go after our visitors. Let's see who, you go all the way to the end. Let's see who else has visitors today. Eric Seaford, Aaron Mikey, Meredith Smiley, Contessa Hood, Randy Lindquist. And Amy will hand you the mic. If you want to step right up on the mark and introduce your visitor.
Hello, Rotarians. I would like to introduce our presenter today, Christine Van Ord. She's the Director of Family Resettlement and Refugee Services in our corporate office. So you will look forward to hearing from Christine shortly. I'm also going to invite Rita up here again. Last week, Rita was my guest, and today she is an approved Rotary applicant. So welcome, Rita, to the family.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Rachel Zaragoza. She is a Muskegon ISD employee. She has lots of jobs. Most importantly, for today, she does special populations coordination, which includes English language learners and homeless students. So she's here to help or to listen to the presentation on Afghans today. Rachel.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. My pleasure to introduce Myra Dutton. She's the CEO of HGA Support Services. She also worked with me at Baker College, so she's considering being a Rotarian. So please welcome Myra.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have my guest with me, Kelsey Rhoda. She is the new PTAC Director of Muskegon Area First. She's an exceptional leader who has already filled out her application for Rotary.
This one? Yep. All right. Come on. I'm the much shorter, much balder Marty Seitzema today, so thank you for coming to Rotary. We have student guests from my alma mater, Mona Shores. I graduated there 34 years ago, so go Sailors. So we have Assistant Principal Joe Schaefer, who we were talking, he does the discipline, so I said when I was a student, we would have been really good friends. So here we go, Mr. Schaefer.
Hi, well, thank you for having us out today. It's my first time joining the meeting, and I know that the other staff that has accompanied our students they're always happy to be here, and we thank you for all you do. We have a couple of Mona Shore's finest here, so they're going to go ahead and introduce themselves and some of their plans for the future. Mr. Nealon said that you'll get applause or some harassment based on which school they're choosing. So I will start us off by saying I am a proud Hope College graduate, so I hope there's some Dutchmen in the house. So thank you.
My name is Sophia Fisher. Currently, I am deciding whether to be a Wolverine or a Spartan. We're in the final process of that. Either way, I do wish to major in biology, minor in psychology, and on a pre-med track. Hopefully I'll go to medical school somewhere and become a physician.
Hi, I'm Alden Crago, and I'm hoping to go to the University of Michigan School of Music for music and technology, go blue, for music and technology major.
Good. All right. We're done. We'll go this way.
Thanks for coming. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Joe. Okay, Chris Colley is going to introduce our program about Afghanistan. I got it in much better that time. So, Chris, if you could come on up and introduce our presenter. Sorry. Before you do that, I was handed a note with two visitors that are on Zoom. See, I remembered, Kim, why you handed me this. Reverend Rob Cook and Sarah Rinsema-Siebinger, who has resubmitted her application for membership, so she will be joining us again soon. So, welcome.
Thank you so much. So great to see such a full house today. Thank you for being here. It is my pleasure to introduce Meredith and Christine from Bethany Christian Services, who are here to talk about the refugee situation with Afghanistan, and we couldn't be more proud to have them here and all the great work that Bethany does in especially the West Michigan area. I'll say that I interned for my practicum, BSW, with Western. I wonder if we went at the same time. So, Meredith, many of you know her. She's the branch manager in Muskegon. For 21 years, she has worked for Bethany in Holland, Madison Heights, and in Muskegon. She is a bachelor's from Western Michigan University, go Broncos, and an MSW from GVSU, go Lakers. Lived in West Michigan since 1997, and she is married to her husband, Trent, and they have a son, Connor, that they share. Together, they also coach volleyball at West Michigan Christian here in Muskegon. Christine is the program director for Bethany Christian's Refugee Adult and Family Programs. She has been working for 25 years with refugees, 12 years with Bethany Christian Services. She also lived in the Middle East for 5 years, and she speaks Arabic quite fluently, it says. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, I know I'm a known commodity to most of you, and I've shared a little bit about our work previously with what we call our transitional refugee minors. And today I'm going to let Christine share a little bit more about the work that we're doing with whole family resettlement. We continue to serve minors from both Central America, South America, and have recently accepted 6 unaccompanied minors from Afghanistan. So those children are currently in our care and transitioning to long-term placements within probably the Grand Rapids area. These kids that we have from Afghanistan, again, are unaccompanied minors, and their families are still stuck in Afghanistan. So I just want to share the kind of the 2 differences that we have, and what Christine is going to be sharing a little bit more about what you're hearing about the whole family resettlement, especially those families that were evacuated under President Biden. So I just wanted to share that clarification, and if you have any questions about either of their programs, you can ask at the time when we have Q&A. But I'm going to turn it over to Christine.
Thank you so much. All right, so I wanted to just start with getting us all on the same page of who a refugee is. So a refugee is someone who has fled their country because of a well-founded fear of being persecuted. And that could be because of their race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group or organization. So that's who refugees are. So when we talk about refugees, we are truly talking about the most vulnerable. They are fleeing for their lives. And I have never met a refugee that didn't wish that they could stay in their home country. But that's just not possible. And so they have to flee for their lives to a safe place. The refugee situation in the world is that it's worse than it's ever been. There are over 79.5 million refugees, and that number continues to grow and grow. And so it is a huge international issue that we're dealing with. 26 million of these are refugees, again, those fleeing for their lives. Refugees, again, are the most vulnerable. So they are children and survivors of violence and torture. They're women and girls at risk. So we are welcoming the most vulnerable here. Lots of global issues impacting forced migration. The war in Syria created a lot of refugees, and then now we are seeing the need with those fleeing Afghanistan. Other general violence, we have welcomed a lot of refugees in the Grand Rapids area from the Congo, and they are fleeing racial and ethnic cleansing. And other types of persecution or reasons why people are fleeing for their lives. These are the top refugee producing countries. That number for Afghanistan will have risen. These are the places that we are seeing refugees come from. The refugee hosting countries are those typically next door to the producing countries where people flee for their lives to. So right now in Afghanistan, we're seeing a lot of people flee to Pakistan. The U.S. has a beautiful long history of welcoming refugees. So since 1980, there has been a Refugee Act that has allowed refugees to come into the United States. But even prior to that, refugees have been welcomed into the United States. Bethany has been involved with welcoming refugees since the 60s, starting with Cubans and then into the 70s with the fall of Saigon. You can see that there's kind of been an ebb and a flow to the number of refugees coming in. This is primarily just due to need. There are 2 exceptions to this, and one is the dip that you see right after September 11. They took a beat just to make sure that they were having the highest security clearances and security screening process. So there was a little bit of a dip then, and then there was a dip during the Trump administration, and then now it's starting to go up again. But refugee admissions have been low due to COVID and just due to rebuilding the infrastructure of the refugee program. So we're seeing our numbers rise, but it's still pretty slow right now. I wanted to explain what is kind of the regular refugee resettlement process, and then I can explain how it's been different for the Afghans. So typically what happens is a refugee flees their country of origin, and they flee into a second country, again, typically the border country. So for the Syrians that fled, they fled to Lebanon and to Egypt and to Jordan and to Turkey. So they typically flee to the nearby country. There they register with the United Nations Higher Commission for Refugees, the UNHCR, as refugees, and they get refugee status. That status can give them some protection in that second country that they're in. It is then determined if they can live viably in that second country or if they can return to their first country. For some people, it's just impossible for them to stay in that second country or to return home. And so then they are referred to resettlement to a third country, like the United States. There are 35 countries in the world that welcome refugees in this third country resettlement, and the U.S. is one of them and has typically been the leader in that process. So less than 1% of refugees are actually referred for resettlement. The need is much greater than that, but that's the number that have come into different countries like the U.S. Then for the U.S., they go through a rigorous security screening process that involves 6 different national agencies. It involves USCIS, Homeland Security, the FBI, the CIA. They go through all of these extensive security checks. Refugees are the most vetted individuals to the United States. They go through a very rigorous process. They also do health screenings, and then they're assigned to a resettlement agency. There are 9 national resettlement agencies, and Bethany partners with a few of those. For our adult and family resettlement, we partner with Church World Service. For some of the minor programs, we partner with Lutheran Immigrant and Refugee Services and USCCB, which is the Catholic organization. So this is what the process looks like for when they come from overseas. Now with the Afghans, they fled and they ended up on the military bases. And so a lot of this process of the security checks and the health screenings is happening at those military bases. And then when they come to us, they come from that base after they've been in the US, some of them now for months. Then they come to us and we begin that resettlement process. So with the Afghans, the screening and vetting took place for some of them prior to coming to the United States or when they were on a base overseas, like in Germany. And then the rest of the screening and vetting has been taking place at the military bases. There are a few different ways that the Afghans are able to be here. One of them is through what's called the Special Immigrant Visa, or SIV. This is what we like to call the Afghan Allies. So these are Afghans who have served the U.S. government or a U.S. contractor for a minimum of a year. They have placed their lives in danger by serving our country in this way, many of them as interpreters. So Special Immigrant Visa, they get refugee status, and they get their green card right away. and then they're on a pathway to citizenship after 5 years of being in the U.S. Humanitarian parole is a new kind of category that they have placed the majority of the Afghans under. So it's a form of a refugee status, but they have to apply for asylum in order to stay here in the United States. So we are working with Lakeshore Immigrant Services to help with that process of changing their status so that they can stay here long term. And then there are a few refugees that are coming through the regular refugee resettlement process, and that will increase as they start processing Afghans out of Pakistan. So they are currently in what's called the Afghan Placement and Assistance Program, or APA. This is 90 days of refugee assistance, so similar to what we do with refugees when they come from that third country. That is also what is happening for the Afghans. So we are helping them with everything that they need to start their lives here. So first of all, housing. We have had a lot of Afghans come kind of all at once. We typically will receive about 30 to 40 refugees per month. We had since October, November, up until now, we've had about 220 Afghans come. So that's a large amount of people in a short period of time. So we've been doing some temporary housing. Some of them have been housed in hotels, and then we're working on getting them into more permanent housing. We help them with cultural orientation, doing lots of education about what it means to live here in the United States. We get them connected with medical services. Many of them have medical needs, a lot of dental needs we've been seeing. We get them connected with Social Security. They're supposed to apply for the Social Security on the base, but if they haven't, then we help them with that process as well. Applying for benefits, getting kids connected with school, getting parents connected with English language services, and all the different things that you can imagine that would need to take place in that first 90 days. I'll talk to you in a minute about what happens after that 90 days. So we are going to be placing some refugees here in the Muskegon area. We're hoping it'll be about 4 or 5 families that we'll be placing here. We'll be working with local churches to be what are called church co-sponsors. To help us with that process of welcome. And so more about that in just a minute. So these are our services at Bethany. We see these as the common areas of need for the refugees. Medical issues, as I mentioned, work experience. We're getting a lot of really technically trained people. We're getting doctors and nurses and pilots and many people with like IT backgrounds and lots of different specialties coming from the Afghans. This is kind of a list of our programs that we have. So we have that initial resettlement period of that first 90 days. And then we go into, we have other services that are beyond that 90 days. So post-resettlement services, employment, we help them in finding jobs. The Afghans are so eager to work, they actually want to work the day after they get here. And we have to kind of slow them down and say, we have to go through all these other hoops. We have to go through medical appointments and all of those kinds of things as well. We have a comprehensive medical care program that does complex medical case management. And then we have our refugee foster care. I know Meredith would say that they are always looking for foster parents, so that is always a need. So how can you help? These are some ways that you can help. You can volunteer, you can become a group co-sponsor. So the Rotary could do that, or you guys could do that as individuals. I know there's a church that's here today that is going to be welcoming a family. You can become a refugee foster parent. We always have fundraising and donation drive needs. We're going to need furniture for these new families that are coming, and all the other kind of household items. And then you can make your voice known to your local representatives that you want to have Muskegon be a welcoming place for refugees. I just want to end with this quote. While every refugee story is different and their anguish personal, they all share a common thread of uncommon courage, the courage not only to survive, but to persevere and rebuild their shattered lives. This is what we see, and this is what we're seeing with the Afghans. Their lives have been shattered, and they are rebuilding them here. And we are very excited to have that happen here in Muskegon. So I don't know how I'm doing on time, but wanted to open it up now for questions, I believe.
That was great. Any questions for Christine? Amy has the mic.
Can you hear me okay? All right, good. I went to Michigan State, and when I was there, I'd met a couple brothers that were from Iran, and they started off, came into this country as refugees, and then got their green cards, and they were finishing up engineering school. The question I have for you is that they were always trying, and you didn't, I don't know if you alluded to this or not, but they were always trying to get their parents and the rest of their family here. And I guess my question is what initiatives are we taking as far as helping these kids get family back here?
Yeah, we have been serving a lot of single men through the Afghan program, and they're all married, and they all have, so they're coming as singles here, but they're all married, and they all have their families still in Afghanistan. So we are applying for them to come, and we're hoping that there will be opportunities for them to come through the refugee program to be reunited with their family. But there's a lot of separation. There's a lot of kids separated from their families. So it's going to take a while to get them reunited, but there are some ways of which to apply for family reunification. So we'll be assisting with them. Yep.
Can you give us a little more information on how individual volunteer activities take place? What can volunteers do to help?
Do you want to answer that?
Sure. I know that we've been working very closely with Central Methodist, who is here today, and they are, as a church, sponsoring a family of 8 that should be arriving soon. But we basically will welcome any volunteers to help with clothing drives. We have to furnish homes. We're working closely with VRBO to basically rent some of their homes for these families coming in. So if you want to get a hold of me, I can give you more information about what you might be interested in volunteering or helping us with and steer you in the right direction.
John, did you have a question, or Chip?
I guess as we're talking about trying to reunite the families of like the single men that have come here, what's the situation like on the ground in Afghanistan now that the Taliban's taken over? Does the U.S. government have, I guess, representatives there, or what's the diplomacy like with the Taliban now they're in control?
You know, I don't have probably any more information on that than you do, but I believe there are still some American presence there. But really the Taliban has taken full control. And so people are still fleeing Afghanistan and going into Pakistan and other nearby areas. There's still quite a few people, a large number of refugees that are trying to exit Afghanistan. Mm-hmm.
All right, one more question from Kathy, and then I have a Zoom question we'll wrap it up with.
Not really a question, but first, thank you for all you're doing, and I am a member of Central United Methodist, and am very glad that you're taking a risk on Muskegon, because I know we can do this. It's new for us, but when you look at everybody here and all the talent within Rotary as well as throughout the community, we're with the Chamber of Commerce and Greater Muskegon Economic Development. There's a lot of people you can call on for some of those specifics, and I know Meredith knows that. So we'll join and do whatever we can to make this successful.
And we will need that for employment opportunities. And Muskegon is a new area for us in terms of doing the family resettlement. So we'll need all of your connections and all of that, working with the local office here. So.
All right, final question from Sarah Rinsma-Siebenga on Zoom. Wondering how refugees currently in the U.S. fall percentage-wise in terms of those 3 refugee categories.
In terms of the Afghans coming, the vast majority of them are coming through the humanitarian parole. There are quite a number coming through the SIV, the Special Immigrant Visa, but the vast majority of them right now are coming through that humanitarian parole.
Well, thank you very much, Christine. Will you give her a round of applause, and Meredith as well? Wonderful presentation, and for presenting today, our club will make a donation to community economic development on your behalf, so thank you once again. Okay, on to our birthdays. We have 3 birthdays today, and I know at least one of these people is here. I don't always see everybody, but I know we got one for sure. Christine Robert on February 13th, Marty Farabee on February 15th, and Jane Klingman Scott on the 16th. Jane, you look surprised. Did you not know your birthday was coming? Or are you just trying to get out of paying the $10? No money. I've heard that one before. So next week, Jane will bring $10 for Caring Connection. Yes. But we're still going to sing for you today. So, all right. Oh, look at Tim Lipan. Wow. All right. You can give your money to Kim. All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. Okay, on to our Vocational Spotlight. We've been doing these all year, and we're highlighting our members' vocations. Rotary has 5 avenues of service, and vocation, our jobs, is one of them. And today we're going to hear from Troy Bell.
I am Troy Bell, and I'm entering my 2nd year as a Rotarian. I am married. I have 3 beautiful children, a daughter, 14, and 2 boys, 9 and 7. I'm a proud graduate of the University of Miami, where I received my degrees in finance, economics, mechanical engineering, sociology. I got my master's degree in public administration from Baruch CUNY in New York, and my master's in finance from the University of Miami, again, the U, and have served in public service 22 years. Started off as a police officer. That's how I paid my way through college, and then worked as a mechanical engineer building wastewater treatment plants, and eventually ended up in local government management after a short stint with IBM in their state and local government sector. The expertise that I bring to the club is wrapped in my knowledge and awareness of that comes from living in so many different places across the country. The diversity of experience, both academically as well as professionally and personally, from having had so many diverse experiences from the West Coast, California, where I was the assistant in the city of Beverly Hills, to East Coast, where I started my career at Miami-Dade Water and Sewer in Dade County, and having spent time, working in the house as a page, all those diverse experiences are attributes that I bring to the club. And I think it aligns with other club members, that compassion for truth and that compassion for serving others.
All right, thanks, Troy. I think Troy will give anyone a run for the money on most degrees in Rotary. On to our committee reports and announcements. Rob Taylor and Kathy Moore have announcements. If you want to make your way up here, just to let Kathy off the hook, she is not taking any questions. She is making an announcement. So we can see, yeah, Kathy, if you want to go ahead.
So I'll make it a really brief report. Our COVID numbers have steadily declined since January 17th. And we are transitioning from the strict guidelines and strong recommendations to individual responsibility. What that means is you assess your own individual circumstances and take precautions accordingly. And some of those precautions, of course, includes vaccinations, socializing in small circles, masking. And thanks to Arn Bozart for suggesting and arranging, we have made available to you some KN95 masks. They're in a bag for you to grab for your use. There's 5 in a bag. You can reuse these masks, but you need to air them out in a free flowing. So we suggest that you air them out in the bag. So back to personal responsibility. You can choose to wear a mask that strategically promotes an organization without paying a fine, or you can please grab a bag of masks on your way out. Thank you.
I think you've all heard that from Jason that I'm the new chair for the Rotary Seaway Run Committee, and he told me that I wouldn't have to do all the work. So it is a committee, and so we're recruiting folks for the committee, and our first responsibility is to come up with sponsors. That's where we raise the most money, is through the sponsorships. And I've been able to recruit a few people by talking to you personally. Jason has talked to some people personally, but we only have so much bandwidth. So if you're interested in helping us solicit sponsors, come see us, and we'll get you on the list. We're going to have a meeting sometime in the next 2 weeks to get organized. We've got a list of prior sponsors. We're just going to go down that list, divide it up, brainstorm new sponsors, and get to work getting these sponsors signed up. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rob. Okay. I'm pleased to announce a change in our leadership of our DE&I committee, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And most of you know that Doug Wood and Jeff Lewis have been heading up that committee, but they're also the chairs of the Community Outreach Council. So committees are under councils. And so they can assume that role of the council chairs. We have, stepping into the chair positions, there it is. I knew it, but I wanted to make sure. We have Andy Belo and Contessa Hood are taking over as chairs of the DEI committee. So thank you very much, Contessa and Andy. And also thank you to Doug and Jeff for their service and their future service to come. Our Grape Escape preview at Courses tickets are on sale today. That is March 24th at Courses. We will have 2 seatings there. Meredith Smiley and her committee have got the Eventbrite sign up online, so that will be available in the rim for you all to click. Tickets are $50. You get a 4-course meal and some wine pours with that, and cash bar is available as well. So thank you to Aaron Mikey and the folks at the Sim for hooking us up with that. Also, coming up, there's still time. I don't know if Jenny made it to the meeting, but she didn't make it. You don't have to buy any tickets from Jenny for the district raffle today. So bring that $20 next week. Couple of reminders, if you have not paid your dues, please do so. That is always appreciated. And also, if there's any information that you want changed in the club directory, Club Runner is the Bible for that. So log into Club Runner and make sure everything is accurate. And then lastly, just another reminder that the cutoff for signups for our Rotary meetings is end of business on Monday. Today we had 12 people show up who didn't sign up, which is always okay, but because fortunately we had 8 people that didn't come. But try to remember to sign up by end of business on Monday. That just makes it easier, and we can make sure that we have the correct amount of food, because today we have one of our largest crowds in recent memory. We have over 70 people here plus another 25 on Zoom. Okay. On to the raffle. I believe Rich Berry has our raffle. $20 first, starting at the top.
And the last 3 numbers are 944. 944.
Oh, Mr. Nealon, our host for our student guests. It pays to volunteer. Don't tell Marty you got that. No, there's no commission.
And the last 3 numbers are 948.
All right. Wow, Alden. Taking that money back to Mona Shores, $10.
This is for $5. Keep it at the table. Should probably have you read it. 909.
909. All right. Okay. All right, that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. Thank you, Sophia and Alden and Joe, for visiting us today. Tell Aaron that his dad did an all right job at Rotary, and you guys had an awesome time, and he should come sometime. Also, Kurt, Maria, Catherine, Kelsey, Rachel, Rita, Rob, and Sarah, thank you for joining us as well. Next week, our program will feature an update from our very own Andy Belo on reinventing and reimagining and maintaining the live music scene in our community. So you want to come and hear from one of our own next week. If everyone could please rise, we will recite the 4-way test. Of the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right, we are adjourned. I'm taking this.